It's great, and there's stuff going on. What is going on? These guys have been working together for a while.
Yeah, well, speaking of phones, Broadcom, they make chips, all sorts of chips. And Apple and Broadcom have worked together for decades at this point on wireless components. So for a long time, to get your phone to connect to Wi-Fi or to connect to Bluetooth, you were using what's called a combined Wi-Fi plus Bluetooth chip made by Broadcom. And Apple was the biggest buyer of this chip. It was the biggest revenue source for Broadcom. But a few years ago, Apple decided it's going to go on its own path. They're going to develop their own Wi-Fi plus a Bluetooth module. It's called the N1. It's now in the latest iPhones, the latest iPads, the latest Macs. They're going to bring it to more devices. And so Broadcom got designed out of the iPhone. But starting in 2023, in order to keep Broadcom around, they created a technology. It's called an RF filter. It's a component that works with the cellular modem. Because as you also know, Apple has dropped Qualcomm for the most part and is now building their own modem. So they're there for this small filter component. But now the partnership is expanding again to something really timely and really important. That's ASIC chips. Now, ASIC chips is a type of circuit, a type of silicon that's really geared towards a single purpose. Now, what is a big piece of machinery that you need that has a single purpose? An AI server. It's all about AI. And so they didn't come out and say this in their press release. They said this is for multiple new generations of Apple products. If you consider an Apple Intelligence and Apple AI server to be a product, then fine. But what I'm telling you is that's what it is.
Wait, so are they now all of a sudden Apple going to be spending a lot of money and kind of building out their AI expert? Like, help me understand what this means.
So for Apple Intelligence, there's really two ways that this AI processes. There's on-device AI models and there's cloud models. Now, the cloud model has now been split up starting later this year as part of the new Siri. You have the Apple Cloud, which they call private cloud compute. These are Mac chips, the M2 Ultra chips that they released in 2023. Those chips are running in servers to power the AI features in the cloud, the more advanced AI features. As an aside, they're splitting that. So you're going to have the Apple servers, then you've got Google, you've got NVIDIA, et cetera, et cetera. But just think of it this way. There's on-device and there's cloud. For cloud, the chips are starting to get a little dated. The M2 is from 3 years ago. Apple's now working on a new server chip. It's called Baltra, right? They name all these chips internally after islands, maybe the island Tim is at. And they are working on this new chip. They're going to deploy it 2027, 2028. And the ASIC technology in there has been developed by Broadcom. And they have multiple generations of these new AI servers planned. And what's unique about these AI servers is that the current version is the same as that top-end Mac chip that you have in the Mac Studio. That's their most powerful desktop. The one they're going to be deploying at the end of 2027 has 4 times the power of the M5 Ultra, which is coming to the Mac desktop later this year. And Broadcom is going to help power that. And Apple's got a long roadmap ahead of subsequent servers. So they are still doing a lot on device for AI, but Apple knows that the real goods are what's powered by the cloud. And so that's why you need that new technology.
Okay, so this was Apple needed Broadcom's help or Broadcom needed a new partnership with Apple?
Apple needed Broadcom, right, to get this up and running, but Broadcom certainly, for its bottom line, probably needed a new relationship with Apple because Apple was their biggest, growth driver and revenue source, and they had been designed out for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And so kudos to Broadcom and good for their shareholders and investors and what have you, that they were able to figure out a way to get back Apple's business for something that's really pertinent right now.
Mark, what does it mean in terms of the Apple AI story, too?
Well, what you're seeing right now is a shift more to cloud-based processing versus the on-device processing.
Yeah.
On-device is great for processing, but it's not so great for functionality. Cloud is much more performant.
Okay. Does that mean also then Apple's going to be spending more in terms of...
I believe that Apple will be spending more on
Okay.
AI. I believe Apple will be spending considerably more on AI, but nowhere near what these hyperscalers and the Metas and Googles of the world are spending because they do have that split. And a lot of it is going to be relying on outside vendors and outside parties. So they do a lot of in-house server infrastructure and they do a lot of licensing or paying other data farms for this.
Is it safe to say that when Apple says, I need, outside data farms or whatever, they're going to get it.
Well,
Or they competing with everybody else.
They're competing,
Yeah.
right? Traditionally, Apple has had extreme amounts of pricing power.
Yeah.
They've had extreme amounts of power over the supply chain and different partners.
Right.
And what you've seen from the memory shortage is that Apple just does not have that clout or credibility that they once had. They're just one of the guys now. They're not the at the front of the line.
Which is pretty remarkable.
Let's talk about product. Before the
Great.
show started, I had
'Cause
mentioned that I saw there was an iPhone that was added to the America 250 time capsule, which is just so pertinent and telling about kind of, the influence that Apple has. But if this were maybe 3 years from now, what products would they be putting in? That's my segue here
Well,
into.
first thing I will
what
say,
are they planning? What would they
I
put
will
in
tell
there?
you, but the first thing I will say, that phone's going to explode, right? Like having a lithium ion battery in a very warm and closed space for the next 250 years.
Yeah, you can't even have it in a checked bag in an airplane.
Fair, but that phone's going to explode, I would guess, within 2 decades, 3 decades.
So somebody didn't think this through? Maybe it doesn't have a battery in
Maybe
it?
they protected it.
I don't know. Maybe they took. No, it does because
Does it?
they said, I read the document for it that Apple put together. They said, we've preloaded the Notes app with a bunch of information about Apple's history and whatnot. So let's say it doesn't explode, which it will. The technology is going to be so different in 250 years that, I don't know, are there going to be outlets in
Right.
250 years? Is it going to be the same? USB-C is not going to be a thing. One way or another, this thing is not turning on, and they'll be lucky if it doesn't destroy everything else in the box that it's in. Anyways, if they were going to be packing this thing in 3 years, perhaps we would see smart glasses in there, which is Apple's biggest priority right now. It's a program codenamed N50. These are in-house designed, in-house branded, supposedly fashionable smart glasses with vertically oval-shaped cameras, a computer vision camera, a standard camera. They're looking to compete with Meta for something they believe internally is higher quality, better made, better battery, better components. They think it looks nicer. I don't know how they're going to beat the ability to partner with brands like Prada and Ray-Ban, all the EssilorLuxottica brands that Meta has in its back pocket. But the Apple brand is still very strong.
Yeah.
And the goal there isn't just to release smart glasses. It's to do to the glasses market what the Apple Watch did to the watch market. 10 years ago, the watch market basically had, I would say, 3 tiers, right? You had the bottom tier of watches where you can buy watches between, I don't know, $20 and $100. Mid-tier watches where you can buy watches between $200 and $800. Then you have the super high tier, the Rolexes, the Pateks, the APs of the world, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars north of that. That market actually got hotter, as we know, through COVID.
Right.
The $20 to $80 watch market really wasn't impacted like the low-end Timexes of the world. But that mid-tier market, right, those all got absolutely crushed. People don't go out and buy watches under $1,000 anymore that are not smart watches. And so what Apple wants to do is do the same thing to glasses.